What is patriotism? Is it a feeling, a duty, or a question? To find out, a group of strangers from every corner of the nation was brought together for a unique social experiment. They were shown 10 powerful catalysts, a potent mix of historical moments, raw news footage, and deeply personal stories designed to challenge everything they thought they knew about their country. They witnessed sacrifice, celebrated innovation, and confronted a complex history hidden. What began as a simple observation of their reactions soon became a profound and unfiltered journey into the heart of the American identity, revealing the deeply personal and often conflicting reasons for one's love of country. The first image appears without warning. No context, no introduction, just a scene, raw and immediate, projected onto the screen in a quiet room. It is grainy footage, likely from a phone, capturing the chaotic joy of an airport arrival's gate. The sounds are muffled, the distant announcement of a boarding call, the rolling of suitcases, the murmur of a crowd. A child, no older than 7, stands on tiptoes, holding a slightly crumpled, handmade sign that reads, "Welcome home, Mom." Then, through the sea of travelers, a figure in a desert camouflage uniform emerges. For a moment, they're just another person in the crowd, but then the child's head snaps up. Their eyes lock, and the world seems to stop. In the viewing room, the air grows still. A man with weathered hands clenches his jaw, his gaze fixed, unblinking. A young woman, a first-generation American, brings a hand to her mouth, her eyes welling with tears that she doesn't try to wipe away. It is not just a reunion they are witnessing. It is a symbol heavy with meaning. The silence is broken only by a soft, involuntary gasp from someone in the back. They are watching the visual embodiment of sacrifice. A promise kept. It speaks to a fundamental component of the national identity. The idea that freedom is not an abstract concept, but a tangible reality purchased by the service of a few for the benefit of the many. This single, intensely personal moment transcends the individual family and becomes a national story, a modern-day Rockwell painting in motion. But even in this pure, emotional moment, questions begin to surface in the quiet reflection that follows. For some, the image is a source of uncomplicated pride, a direct connection to a sense of duty and honor that feels both timeless and essential. For others, it is a poignant reminder of the immense cost of conflict, of policies debated in distant halls of power that have profound personal consequences on kitchen tables across the country. The uniform itself becomes a canvas onto which a nation projects its hopes, its fears, and its unresolved arguments. Is this patriotism, a shared reverence for the soldier? Even if there is profound disagreement about the war, the image forces a confrontation with the duality of American strength, the capacity for immense personal sacrifice existing alongside fierce political division. This single act of return ripples outward. It is a family made whole, a community welcoming back one of its own. It reinforces the idea that America is not just a place on a map, but a network of obligations, a collective responsibility. The love for country, in this instance, is not an abstract love for a flag or an anthem, but a tangible love for the people who defend it, for the neighbor who comes home. It is a patriotism rooted in the soil of local communities, in the shared experience of waiting, worrying, and finally celebrating. The image suggests that perhaps the most powerful patriotic acts are not grand gestures on a national stage, but quiet, personal commitments fulfilled. It is the understanding that the nation is, at its core, an interwoven tapestry of individual lives, each one bound to the others by a shared and often unspoken covenant. The soldier's return is the fulfillment of one side of that covenant, and the community's embrace is the other. The screen flickers to life again, replacing the quiet solemnity of the homecoming with a chaotic symphony of creation. It is not one single image, but a rapid-fire montage. A cluttered garage at midnight, wires spilling from a breadboard, illuminated by the glow of a monitor. The frantic, chalk-dusted hands of a young woman sketching a complex algorithm on a blackboard that covers an entire wall. The fiery plume of a rocket lifting off against the Florida sky, a private venture aiming for the stars. A drone shot sweeps over a vast solar farm, its glass panels shimmering in the desert sun like a man-made lake. Interspersed are historical clips. The word of our Model T assembly line. The determined face of an immigrant opening their first small storefront. The flick of a switch that lit up a city. The soundtrack is not a somber melody, but a driving, optimistic beat. This is not a story of sacrifice. It is a story of relentless, unapologetic ambition. In the viewing room, the atmosphere shifts palpably. The veteran, who had watched the soldiers return with a quiet, knowing stillness, now leans forward, a flicker of something new in his eyes, perhaps recognition of a different kind of fight, a battle against impossibility. The young entrepreneur's posture changes. She sits up straighter, a small, almost unconscious nod accompanying the images of frantic innovation. This is a language she understands intimately. It is the gospel of the hustle, the belief that a good idea, fueled by sleepless nights and sheer force of will, can reshape the world. This is the patriotism of the blueprint, the patent, and the pitch deck. It is a love of country rooted not in what it is, but in what it allows one to build. This vision of America is a promise of a blank slate. It suggests that one's origins are not a destiny, but a starting point. The images celebrate the disruptor, the individual who looks at the established order and sees not a wall, but a foundation for something new. It's a powerful and seductive narrative, one that has drawn millions to its shores. The love for country, in this context, is a love for the sheer possibility of it all. It's the freedom to fail spectacularly and the space to try again. It is the belief that the next world-changing idea is just as likely to come from a dorm room or a basement as it is from a corporate boardroom. This patriotism is not about defending borders, but about shattering limits. Yet, as the montage continues, a new set of questions begins to percolate in the silence between the heart-pounding beats of the soundtrack. For every story of a garage-born unicorn, how many other garages hold only broken dreams and mounting debt? The face of a weary farmer looking over a drought-stricken field appears for a fleeting second, a stark contrast to the gleaming tech campus that follows. The image of a shuttered factory in a Rust Belt town is a silent counterpoint to the bustling, sun-drenched innovation hub. The promise of the American dream, so vividly portrayed, is not a universal experience. For some in the room, the montage is an inspiration. For others, it is a source of a quiet, gnawing anxiety. It highlights a chasm between the myth and the lived reality. This forces a deeper consideration. Is patriotism a belief in the dream itself, even when evidence suggests it is out of reach for many? Is it an allegiance to the ideal meritocracy, a system where the best ideas rise to the top, regardless of the systemic inequalities that might prevent so many from even getting a chance to compete? The images celebrate a nation in constant forward motion, a culture that worships the new and relentlessly discards the old. But this progress comes at a cost. The patriotism it inspires is therefore complex, a mixture of pride in the nation's capacity for incredible achievement and a concurrent unease about who gets left behind in the relentless pursuit of that future. It is a patriotism that must coexist with the knowledge that the ladder of opportunity has rungs that are spaced much farther apart, for some than for others. The love of country becomes an act of faith that the system, for all its flaws, still contains within it the seeds of opportunity and the potential for self. It is a belief in the nation, not as a finished product, but as a perpetual, messy, and often unequal experiment in human potential. The final image fades to black, but the room remains illuminated by the afterglow of a 10-part odyssey through the American soul. A profound silence descends, heavier and more articulate than any of the words that have been spoken. It is a silence filled with the echoes of marching feet and protest chants, of courtroom gavels and schoolyard pledges, of whispered prayers in times of crisis and roaring crowds in moments of triumph. The journey is complete. The 10 catalysts have been deployed, each one a carefully aimed stone cast into the still waters of personal conviction. And now the ripples intersect and collide, creating a complex pattern of thought and emotion that defies easy interpretation. What remains is not a simple answer, not a neat, numbered list that can be memorized and what remains is the raw, undeniable weight of the experiment itself, the realization that American patriotism is not a single, solid monument to be admired from a distance, but a chaotic, vibrant, and deeply personal ecosystem. It is a love affair with a paradox. It is the capacity to hold two fiercely opposing ideas in one's heart at the same time and call them both true. It is cherishing the words all men are created equal while simultaneously wrestling with the historical and present-day reality that this promise has not been extended to all. It is the pride in a nation that put a man on the moon, coexisting with the shame of its failures to care for its most vulnerable on earth. This patriotism is found in the dissonance. It is the anthem sung with a hand over a heart that is simultaneously swelling with pride and breaking with disappointment. It is a belief in the sanctity of individual liberty that must constantly negotiate its place alongside the necessity of collective responsibility. To be patriotic, then, is not to be blind to the nation's flaws, but to see them with excruciating clarity and to love the country anyway, not in spite of its imperfections, but because the struggle to overcome them is the very essence of the American story. It is a demanding, active, and often painful love, one that requires a citizen to be both a guardian of the nation's founding ideals and its most relentless critic. Ultimately, the source code of this patriotism is not written in the grand, sweeping documents of state, but in the small, intimate ledgers of individual lives. It is the immigrant's memory of the first time they saw the skyline, a silhouette of promise against the dawn. It is the veteran's unwavering bond with the men and women they served alongside, a loyalty forged in sacrifice that transcends politics. It is the farmer's connection to the soil, a generational trust with the land that feeds the nation. It is the teacher's daily effort to shape the next generation of citizens, a quiet act of faith in the country's future. It is the activist's fierce belief that the nation can and must be better, a patriotism expressed not through placid acceptance but through righteous discontent. These are the 10,000 smaller reasons that give power to the 10 larger ones. Patriotism is the collective memory of a shared past and the collective gamble on a shared future. It is the taste of a hot dog at a 4th of July barbecue, the solemnity of a flag-draped coffin, the roar of a crowd at a political rally, and the quiet dignity of a citizen casting their vote. The experiment concludes not with a definition, but with a revelation. The question was never truly why are Americans patriotic? The real question, the one that has been unfolding across 10 distinct movements, is how do Americans navigate the complex, often contradictory, and deeply personal landscape of their own love for country. There is no single path. For some, it is a straight and unwavering road of gratitude and pride. For others, it is a winding, treacherous trail marked by doubt, anger, and a desperate hope for redemption. The conclusion is that all these paths are part of the same national geography. Patriotism is not a consensus. It is a perpetual, noisy, and vital conversation. It is the argument itself. It is the ongoing struggle to define what the flag stands for, who is included in we the people, and how to form a more perfect union. The love of country is not found in the absence of conflict, but in the enduring commitment to remain in the conversation, to stay at the table, to fight for one's vision of America. It is a bond forged not by universal agreement, but by a shared and unbreakable stake in the outcome of this grand, flawed, and magnificent experiment. If you stand for these American values, show your support with a like and subscribe for more.